Welcome to Town Hall, folks. Welcome to the Town of Orangetown's weekly meeting. My name is Andy Stewart. I'm the town supervisor. We're here tonight for a regular town board meeting. There will be public comment. There's an agenda. But before that, we have a couple of important recognitions and ceremonial actions we want to take. So with that, I'll turn it over to our town clerk to open the meeting. Charlie?
I will. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the town of Orangetown. This is going to be a great meeting. I see the bagpipe is back there. So we're going to have a very exciting meeting. On roll call, Councilman Troy.
Present.
Councilman Divney.
Here.
Councilman Valentine.
Here.
Councilman Batari.
Here.
And Supervisor Stewart.
Thanks so much.
And I would ask that Dermot Moore please stand and start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Charlie, and again, welcome to Town Hall. The first of our commemorations tonight is to commemorate the month of February as Black History Month in the town of Orangetown, which we do every year. And the second one is to commemorate the month of March, as Irish Cultural History Month, which we also do every year. And so to start things off, I'd like to invite Miss Nikaya Sturdivant-Reyes, and I think quickly followed by her grandmother, Mrs. Sturdivant, to say a word about Black history, and particularly to introduce Mrs. Sturdivant as a town resident with quite a pedigree in the history of leadership in the town. That microphone should be working, Nikaya. Hi, Nikaya. And by the way, Nikaya is a Tappan Zee High School student who works with me in terms of a youth advisory group, and so welcome. And she's also volunteering to help run the TV coverage of tonight's meeting. All our meetings are on TV. So Nikaya, the floor is yours for a minute or two.
Thank you, Mr. Andy. I wrote a small biography about my grandmother. Here it is. Andrea Sturdivant was born and raised in Spark Hill, New York. She has lived here all her life. She has worked at Rockland Psych for almost 40 years as a registered nurse in Building 58. She is an active member of the St. Charles AME Zion Church, where she is the first female chairperson for the trustee board since it was created 150 years ago. She is a deaconess and usher. She sings in the choir, the original librarian for the church, the vice president of the lay council, the head of the board of evangelism, and is a part of the nursing board. She has been asked to be in charge of the health committee for the NAACP Spring Valley branch. She is currently the president of the Tau Phi chapter, Chi Phi Sorority Incorporated, and is the longest running president in the chapter. She has 3 daughters and 9 grandchildren. 6 of her 9 grandchildren are currently or have attended South Orangetown schools. Her 4th granddaughter, Nikaya Sturdivant-Reyes, is a sophomore at Tappan Zee High School and has come to intern here at Town Hall and an Orangetown TV volunteer. Nikaya runs her own youth advisory group here in Town Hall. Andrea is a hardworking, determined, wise woman of color in our town. My grandma, Andrea Sturdivant.
Bless us with a word or two?
Just 2.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Stewart and the town board, for this recognition this evening. I am a proud member and resident of the town of South Orangetown. I love South Orangetown, and there's no better place to live in the county of Rockland. Thank you again for this recognition. And I'm very proud of my granddaughter for all the work that she's doing here with you and trying to learn more about how our town operates. Thank you again.
Thanks for saying that. I want to present you just with this little proclamation on behalf of the town board and the town for Black History Month. And thanks for coming out tonight. And you do have a wonderful granddaughter, and this is just a note to the population here and the folks who might be watching on TV, that there are a lot of ways that youth can get involved with the town of Orangetown. We have a youth court. We have a whole kind of range of options And in one case is our town television broadcasting of town meetings, which for a long time have been the work of volunteers coming out of Tappan Zee High School, where Nikaya goes. And so just put the word out that we do need volunteers to help run the cameras during town meetings, and there are other ways to get involved and learn from, get a little exposure to careers and those kinds of advantages, which really can be great help for high school students as they look at where they want to go in life and try to kind of find ways of doing community service and connecting with the community, building a resume. I want them to look to the town and find out how they can help here as well. So thank you so much, Mrs. Sturdivant, for your leadership in the community, and Nikaya for yours as well. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have a very special occasion tonight in recognition of the March as Irish Cultural Heritage Month in the town of Orangetown. We want to start out with the pipers from the Rockland County Ancient Order of Hibernians Pipe Band. And once they make their entrance, there's a number of thank yous and dignitaries who are in the audience tonight we want to recognize with this proclamation of March as Irish Cultural History Month. But let's just see if we can get these pipers coming in.
This is not for my anniversary, although it's tonight, but thank you. I thought it was. I'm a little disappointed, but this is great.
Here we go. Thank you very much. Thanks so much. This is Dave Strykett and Dan Duffy. By the way, let's give these guys another hand. Yeah, just if you stand over here for a minute. There's a number of people I want to thank and just recognize and describe what's going on here. Dave Strykett and Dan Duffy, of course, are part of the Order of Hibernians Pipe Band, and they're helping us to honor the Irish American Heritage Month here in Orangetown. Here in Orangetown, of course, we host the second largest parade celebration in New York State and are proud of our Irish American community history. The Rockland County AOH Pipe Band has been invited by the Irish government to partake in celebrations in Dublin as a part of the commemorations of the Easter Uprising of 1916 to establish a united Ireland. This important event will also be commemorated in Orangetown at the GAA facility in a few weeks. So let's recognize these guys are going all the way. There's really pretty important recognition that this band is playing in Dublin to commemorate this important event. Also joining us tonight are Tom Levy, president of the AOH Division 5 in Blauvelt. Tom's here. Just raise your hand when I call your name. We've got Lillian Murphy of the Ladies AOH. There she is. She's the president. Neil Cosgrove, a Rockland County Hibernian of the Year. Where's Neil? Mary O'Sullivan, co-chair of St. Patrick's Day Parade. Where's Mary? There she is. Of course, Dermot, who helped us out with the pledge a minute ago, president of Division 3. Tom O'Reilly, Division 5 Irish historian. Where's there is Tom? Brian Pearson, AOH Division 3. Brian, it's great to have you in Town Hall. Joan Moore of the AOH Ladies, and Patrick Hegarty of the AOH Division 3. There they are. And again, thank you to the Pipers for giving us a little taste of the Irish music and getting this meeting going with unusually great spirit. So thanks for coming out tonight. I do have this proclamation. Why doesn't everybody just get up and stand over here, because we'll have maybe the newspaper will take a picture.
I'm really disappointed. I really thought it was my anniversary.
How's that? Is that gonna work all right?
Smile, guys, and ladies. The ladies have a big smile. Mary, get up.
So thank you very much. Safe trip to Ireland. I've asked for an encore performance so that the Pipers are going to lead the procession out of the room, and they can watch the meeting on TV from their comfort of their own homes. Take care. Hey, Eric, would you mind getting the sign-in sheet for me? Thanks a lot. Just one quick announcement. We'll start our public comment in a minute. We have a public hearing which is continuing tonight on the amendment to the town's code regarding the prohibited uses. This is specific to the benzene, toluene, xylene, and the industrial uses. So we have that public hearing, and we also have the usual, opening period of the meeting when people make comments about items of concern. So I'm not sure when that public hearing, usually we set those for 8 o'clock. I don't know if we had that on here or not. But in any case, I just want to note as an announcement at the top of the agenda that there is at the regular town board meeting on March 15th, there'll be a public hearing related to another small modification in the town code. And just as a heads up about that. And you can always get the town agenda on the website a few days before the meeting. Why don't we start with our public comment period? I'll make a motion to open public comment. I see 5 people are signed in. Do I have a second? Second from Divany. All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. Esther Baitler, could you come up and let me fix that podium for you?
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart, Town Board members. My name is Esther Ann Baitler. I'm an able consumer with intellectual disabilities. Tonight, I want to have you all open up about Disabilities Awareness Month, which is not on the agenda, and I'd like to know why it wasn't put on. Last Friday, I had the opportunity of listening to a consumer by the name of Scott Salmon, who recently got his master's in social work. He has cerebral palsy, but the reason he spoke at the Orangetown Jewish Center was to open up a dialogue about Disabilities Awareness Month and what does it mean to the people in the community. On Friday night, some of the parents from the OJC asked me, what does that mean? How do we deal with people who live in the community? And I said, you know what? You would be proud to have people with disabilities living out in the community or in your neighborhood. And some of them were startled because there was no open dialogue. He spoke for 10 minutes. However, I feel that should have been put on tonight's agenda. This email was sent to me from Kerry Delaney, the acting commissioner of OPWDD, Office for People with Disabilities, known as OPWDDRO. Recently, part of the month is to talk about all kinds of inclusions, moving people from state houses to regular great IRAs, such as Venture, which is phenomenal agency, Geronio, and ARC. I really feel that tonight should have been a night to really open up and have a panel of consumers to speak on the Disabilities Awareness Month so people get a better understanding of what it's all about. I also want to bring up that tonight I was on my internet and unfortunately I saw Special Olympics. In no shape or form should that committee ask people to have consumers pay to watch the games. It is the fault of the referees to allow that to happen. No one with developmental disabilities should have to pay to watch a basketball game.
Esther, thanks for bringing this to our attention. That's new
I
information.
also want to thank, can I just have 5 minutes, Andy? I appreciate
If you could just finish up, you've had 3 minutes, and we do try to keep it. You know how that works around here, Esther. You've spoken here so often. If you could just
Andy.
finish up.
Thank you. I also want to thank a few people. Eileen Larkin, Mike Mandel, and some of our elected officials for helping me to get a bus shelter for Route 340. And I'm asking the town board to write a supportive proposal for this bus shelter. I don't want to hear, we don't need an Estabela bus shelter. Yes, we do. The one at Thorpe is not accessible, does not have a curb for people in wheelchairs to access local buses to go to the mall. This should be taken down and redesigned appropriately.
And I have the letter here from Ken Zabrowski, so we'll put one together that's similar to this. We appreciate that.
I hope that
We'll
each one
certainly
of you will
support
write
this.
a letter. But I never want to hear, we don't need an ESTA bus shelter, because that's ludicrous.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Eileen Larkin?
Esther's a hard act to follow, but congratulations, Esther. You've been truly a candidate for your consumers. And the letter from Ken Zabrowski tells it all. So anyway, tonight it was nice to see the recognition of Black History Month and Irish History Month, and calls to mind that perhaps during these times when we do honor people of different ethnic cultures that we have out here in the Rotunda, a display cabinet showing some of the historical treasures that people have. I know I have at least over 100 Irish history books. I have going from Blarney to factual to historical. And I also have some old Irish pictures of my ancestors, since I'm first generation American. And so maybe that's something you can consider. I'm sure the lady that spoke before me certainly has a long history of living in Spark Hill and the Black community that comes out of Spark Hill and Piermont. The other issue is the Palisades Community Center had an annual meeting about a week ago, and I'd like to congratulate Elijah, who came to the meeting. He spoke, represented the town very well, and answered our questions. And there's a young man here tonight, Patrick Sheehan, from Senator Carlucci's office, and Representative County Councilwoman Nancy Lohogan was there also. And one of the issues we spoke about was the issue of Medicaid. We're one of 2 states that fully funds Medicaid in the, so Rockland County gets hit pretty hard because you know the large population that comes from the northern part of the county, and it's not sustainable anymore. So it was suggested that perhaps we could send letters to the governor asking him to fund Medicaid instead of just being the financial responsibility of the people of Rockland County, because as the county is growing in one direction more so than others, it's not sustainable. Today I heard that somebody I know, close friend, husband lost his job, the wife is looking for a job, and it's becoming quite serious. Young people with masters in business administration losing jobs. So the housing here is expensive, taxes are high. If people don't have the ability to move upwards, there's no jobs, and they're losing jobs, it's going to impact our values, our real estate holdings in Rockland County. Everything trickles down, trickles up, trickles down, and I don't like to see what's happening with the Rockland County budgets. County Executive Day did a great job in holding down the costs, because he had to get rid of the elephant in the room, which was the Pomona Health Center.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Larkin. Tracy Hancock?
Hi, I'm Tracy Hancock, and I live in Pearl River. Next Wednesday, March 9th at 7:30 p.m. here in Town Hall, the Planning Board is going to review development known as Hillside Commercial Park. I'm bringing it up because I think a lot of people in Pearl River don't know about it. There are 10 acres of trees between Route 304 and Railroad Avenue in Pearl River. They're in the heart of Pearl River. They're encroaching on wetlands. They're adjacent to a very large residential neighborhood. I know this is a planning board matter at this point. One of the reasons I'm bringing it up tonight is because this exact parcel of land was identified in the 2000 Orangetown Comprehensive Plan. It was recommended that it be preserved as open space, and that town board didn't act on that recommendation. And, you know, thinking that this is something that maybe could have been prevented makes me want to ask the town board that you guys take a look at the future of Pearl River and what's happening with the development, because, you know, I think in the last year so many issues have arisen of things happening in Pearl River that are making families question whether or not it's a safe place to live environmentally, if we want to raise our families in a place where maybe the air is not going to be safe to breathe. And so I think you as a board have the power to make good choices for Pearl River, as well as the planning board. You know, just as an example, you have a chance to make a good choice regarding protecting the residents from having hazardous chemicals being manufactured in this town. So again, just want to invite members of the community to come to the planning board hearing next Wednesday, where it's a public meeting. People can ask their own questions and get the facts and find out what is in store for Pearl River. So thank you.
Thank you. And that meeting will be right here in Town Hall and also broadcast on TV. Michael Mandel, please.
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart and members of the Town Board. For the record, I am Michael Mandel, a resident of Pearl River. And I just want to piggyback on what Ms. Larkin said about the state taking over the full payment for Medicaid. We're only one of 2 states in this country where the counties are required to pay into Medicaid. It should be a state issue, especially with the population that's increasing and the Medicaid bill also. Just want to talk about a couple of items tonight. Candle provides a valuable service for Orangetown through its drug abuse and prevention awareness programs, especially during the current heroin and prescription drug epidemic. However, I find a glaring deficiency. It provides services at Tappan Zee High School and at the NIAC Center. It fails to provide a site services for those in the Pearl River School District, which covers Pearl River and parts of Orangeburg. Stating that children from the district can receive services at either of the other locations is not an option. The kids are not going to go over there. If we as a community intend to increase funding or to fund a program like Candle, which is important, then all the town's use must be included. If there is another reason that Pearl River School District doesn't have a day at their school district for children to attend, what is it? But we can't ask the children from Pearl River or that live there and in Orangeburg to go over to Tappan Zee High School for treatment. They're not going to go. It's a different location. It should be in their school where they feel comfortable. Last year, Applied Golf managed the Broad Acres Golf Course. According to the contract, a certain monetary goal was set. By now, last year's books should have been closed out, and the town can determine if they were over or under the amount specified. Accordingly, if over, the surplus would be divided between the parties, and if under, both parties would split the deficit. My question is, did the cost come under or over? And depending on which one, how much did the town receive, or how much did it cost the taxpayers for it? And one final statement I want to make is that tonight we have a public hearing on the revised revisions to the town code. But there are no revisions that we can find. It's not on the website. I called up. There was nothing. There's nothing out on the table. So you can't make an intelligent comment upon a revision when you don't have the revision to look at. So thank you very much for your time.
Just a point of clarification, I wish you'd asked me because it was on the February 2nd agenda and all the backup. And,
But it was supposed to be revised since then.
and I'm not in possession of a change, but I don't know if it tracks, if there was some little changes, they'll be discussed tonight. Let's see. Bill Clark.
My name is Bill Clark. I live on Hillside Avenue in Pearl River for over 50 years before they even built 304. Several years ago, the town asked the Army Corps of Engineers to do a study on the land between 304 and Railroad Avenue. This was when the words watershed, wetland, and swamp came into use. Use whatever word you like, they all mean the same. To the best of my recollection, the results of their study was that any construction on this land would have a serious effect on the flooding in this area and going south into New Jersey. I doubt anybody in this room has read or even seen the report from the Corps of Engineers. Just ask the owner of the saloon restaurant on Central Avenue how many times they've been flooded out in the last 10 years. Ledley was the original owner of this land. I retired from Ledley after 43 years. In all that time, I saw a lot of buildings going up on site. Never did anybody ever suggest building on the wetland because they knew it was a bad idea. It was a bad idea then, and it's a bad idea now. I personally feel it's not fair for everyone in the area to suffer because one man decided he could buy a piece of wetland real cheap and make a buck on it. Thank you.
That completes our sign-in for general public comment. By raise of hands, is anybody else here to speak on public comment? All right, seeing no hands up, I'll make a motion to close the public comment period. Do I have a second? Second from Divany. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you so much, those of you who chose to speak tonight. As always, putting important issues on the table. I'll just say a word or two. One is that the planning board meeting will be televised from here, which is one of the advantages of holding it up here. Larger capacity in the room as well. And I think it's fitting that we do have an annual report from the Broadacres Golf from 2015. So maybe, Jeff, you and I could work on that and put it together for the next meeting because it is a timely thing to ask for. We appreciate that, Michael. Obviously, you know, flooding on the Muddy Creek has been a perennial problem, and it's a problem throughout town, really, and we need to find ways to mitigate that problem, in particular as it comes through Pearl River. And I've toured that saloon site, and we've walked together around the firehouse there, and it's clearly a problem. I know I've walked it with Joe Moran in our engineering department, and I think people really are familiar with it. But I actually haven't seen that Army Corps of Engineers study, and I would like to see it. So if you happen to have it, I'll ask our engineering department if they have it. I'm sure Joe has seen it. But having said that, and Esther, we'll take a look at the support letter for the bus shelter and put together our own. So don't worry about that. Any other comments from the town board at this time as far as responding to public comment? We do have a public hearing as well, so. No, seeing none. All right. And I wish that the as far as Candle goes, they're not represented here tonight. I don't know the details of their program, but it seems to me there is. Do you know anything about the in terms of Pearl River access for that? Okay. Can you speak to that, Dennis, because you're familiar with the program?
Yeah, the town started funding this going back, I don't know, about 12 years ago. I got involved in it 10 years ago with Candle. And at the time, it was supposed to take care of Nyack, Tappan Zee, and also Pearl River High School. It was about 3 years ago. They were running into problems. Candle was running into problems financially. And what they ended up doing is they cut back and they just cut to Tappan Zee and also Nyack, the Nyack Center. So to me, the issue is if the Pearl River School District came in and presented the case and said, this is something I really want, and at that time, it was kind of iffy whether the people in the high school were pushing to keep Candle there. What you always need is an advocate. And again, if somebody in the Pearl River School District wants it there, I will make sure it happens. But as of right now, I don't think so. But they were there as part of our attorney, John Edwards, went over the contract, and the contract with Candle states that it's for Nyack, Pearl River, and Tappan Zee.
Thank you, Dennis. So moving on with our agenda for tonight, the next item would be the continuation of a public hearing on the proposed local law that would amend town zoning law with respect to prohibited uses and related changes to the table of general use regulations for the light industrial zoning, the LI zoning district. And so the public hearing, I don't know if we have to make a motion, it's already continuing. We have some people who signed up to speak. Is it already just to start, John, or, I mean, we held the public hearing open, right? So it's, okay, Heather Hurley. Did you- And just so you know, and I know you've spoken many times here tonight, so this isn't for you, Heather, but on public hearings for kind of changes to the town code, the speaking is a 5-minute rather than a 3-minute. But this timer doesn't do that easily, so I'm going to run the 3 and then give you extra time if you need it.
Okay.
All right?
Can you vote to reopen it? We never closed it. I know, but it's a different night anyway.
We're being asked to make a motion to open the public hearing on this. We got a second from Divney. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes
Aye.
have it. Go ahead, Heather.
Good evening. First, I'd just like to echo what Mr. Mike Mandel said about not having any available copies of whatever amendment that's supposed to be discussed here tonight. How's the public supposed to know what exactly is being discussed and what may be voted on tonight if there are no copies outside or was listed on the agenda for tonight? There actually are changes from what I can read from the February 2nd version that was on the workshop meeting draft online. So one proposed amendment that was emailed to me last week by Mr. Divney, if that one is being used, I don't know. And that is different than what was provided on February 2nd. I just want to put it out there because there are differences in that. So I don't understand how you can make a vote on this when the public can't really even comment because we don't know exactly which one you're talking about. But if the one that was emailed to me last week, then I'd like to make some comments regarding that one. That amendment, I don't think, is a version that you should be voting on anyway tonight. It does not close any loopholes that currently exist in the town code. Does somebody want to get that? Is that somebody's phone?
Whose phone is ringing? Bob?
Is that your phone, Bob?
Okay, so anyway, it does not close any loopholes that currently exist in the town code. And by amending certain sections in this revision, you are ultimately giving Inelitech more rights to experimentally produce an undocumented and unverified quantity of carcinogenic chemicals in a residential neighborhood, should they decide to come back. The residents of Orangetown and Clarkstown refuse to be put into a guinea pig scenario again due to your inaction to properly come up with language which must protect the residents of this town. By changing the zone to allow R&D, even though you are removing Section 3, still gives Inelitech more rights to produce carcinogenic chemicals should they decide to pursue the location in Pearl River and not in Texas. I would like to address again the issue of including the definition of scale in a proposed amendment to the town code on prohibited uses. You all have the opportunity and obligation as elected officials to protect the residents in Orangetown now that they've said that they're not pursuing their production here. The proposed amendment on prohibited uses must include defining scale for R&D in some way, shape, or form. We cannot allow the people of this town to be left vulnerable to another company like Inelitech coming into Orangetown, declaring that they are R&D when in reality they are already at a demonstration plant scale and therefore circumventing any regulatory air permitting guidelines, such as the DEC air permits, when self-reporting that they're R&D. Inelitech's application with the town is active until April 2017, and they could pursue the Pearl River location while that application is still open. There is some language which I'll submit to you that could possibly talk about bench scale laboratory quantities for the purpose of computation. It could suggest that any pilot plant, demonstration plant, or testing concerning the manufacturing processes which produce any use as designated in this article of this code shall constitute manufacturing and in all instances shall be prohibited, something like that. On I'm also asking once again if anyone on the board has contacted Lamont Doherty, anyone there to find out exactly what bench scale, laboratory, or university research and development encompasses. As far as I'm aware, their research does not involve industrial-size pilot and demonstration plant-scale processes, the kind which Analytech was proposing. An attachment that I emailed to the board weeks ago included a slide from Analytech's own presentation, which describes their level of production very clearly, and that is at demonstration plant quantities. Just as a reminder, on June 23rd, 2015, Mr. Troy, you stated at the special town board meeting that because of the Article 78 lawsuit, that we will vote on it when the litigation is resolved, you said. And you said, anytime I'm in litigation, I've been sued before, we do not take any action, and I'm not. So I'm just wondering, how can you vote in favor of this amendment, if this is the amendment that you're talking about tonight? Please remain committed to working on this amendment to include the definition of R&D scale. This topic was brought up about a year ago by Denise Shorn, and at the time some of you stated that it was a good idea to include scale parameters in the code change. Again, this is of utmost importance because it does not exist in the current code. You now have the opportunity to make it so, and the people of Orangetown deserve it for their future quality of life, health, and safety. What's the point in amending the code if this isn't going to be included, and then more companies like Analytech can easily come to Orangetown to produce carcinogenic materials with undisclosed emissions that could pose a serious risk to the surrounding community? The only answer to a common sense approach is to define scale quantities in a revised amendment. For the past year and a half, this town board, with the exception of newly elected Mr. Batari, has made it very clear that you all had nothing to do with the decision-making process concerning Analytech. And now you do. This is in your hands now. You have the responsibility to provide a clear and concise amendment to the people of this town to ensure that their health, safety, and quality of life will not be jeopardized by future companies coming to Orangetown with zero parameters set forth defining what constitutes R&D in Orangetown.
Thank you, Heather. You got to wrap up. 'Cause
Okay.
We're at 6 minutes. So.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
So just wanted to say we're going to find ourselves in the same position with future Article 78s brought by the people of this town who refuse to allow carcinogenic chemical companies and plants in our residential communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bahari?
I'm Emil Bahari, a resident of Pearl River, and thanks to Heather, she introduced the subject, and that's the scale of production of toxic substances in this community. By the way, manufacturing is only 12% of the GDP in this country, so we're not, I'm sorry, chemical manufacturing. Sorry, manufacturing is 12% of GDP in this country, so we're not restricted to manufacturing to enhance ratables in this county. Now, I'd like to just describe this chart that I've presented to you. It's essentially scale of operations at bench lab versus pilot scale. Anyway, the punchline is, at the pilot scale level, they could be producing over 2 tons of the material a day. So the source of this material are two. One is the Chemical Engineering Society, the first, this middle column, and the other one is the equipment manufacturer companies that supply lab scale and pilot plant equipment to the industry. So you can see the bench scale is about, just look at the lower table. Bench scale is about 14.4 pounds, I'm sorry, 31 pounds a day, and the equipment manufacturer that sells the equipment sells equipment that would produce 15.9 pounds a day. When it comes to pilot plant scale, it's 264 pounds a day versus 2 tons a day for a pilot plant. So you can see there's a big difference between a lab scale process and a pilot scale process. Now, something about the source of this information, because that's important. The chemical process industry's data is in an article in the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, and is cited below there, March 2015. Now, this is not just random numbers produced by one person. This data is actually a result of peer reviews of other people in the industry. So it's not to be taken lightly. And the company, Buckglass, that supplies pilot plant and laboratory equipment to the industry, has been in existence since 1946. And it's an international company and supplies equipment to all industries. And they address lab scale and pilot scale and demonstration scale. And you can see the data over there. Now, since I would like to include language in this, I got 2 minutes, right?
Right, right.
I would
please.
like to include some language that will describe what we'd like the limitations to cover. Can I just distribute?
Please do, please do.
I can
Thanks.
read it. It's a little bit wordy, but I'll read it. This refers to one of the versions of the proposal produced by Councilman Divany. Paragraph 9, I believe it is. With specific regard to those uses which are prohibited in the town as designated in Article 4.4 of this code, the conduct of production of any such uses on bench scale shall be permissible, but in all instances shall not exceed recognized bench scale laboratory quantities. Recognized bench scale laboratory quantities for the purpose of the computations of the limitations set forth under this section shall not exceed production cumulatively in excess of 30 pounds for any liquid or solid during any 24-hour period. The conduct of any pilot plant, demonstration plant, or testing concerning manufacturing processes which produce any use as designated in Article 4.4 of this code shall constitute manufacturing, and all instances shall be prohibited by this code. Thank you. And by the way, I have the references, if you would like copies of both the manufacturer and the...
If you have an extra copy, please leave it with us, and I can distribute it to the town board. We'll have a copy in the office, so that's helpful. Is anybody else here, by raise of hands, that's it for people who signed in, to speak on this public hearing regarding this amendment to town law? All right, I'm not seeing any hands up. So I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. I think we want to close the public hearing, or don't we? I was, the town board can comment, I guess, and then.
There was a proposed local law that was presented at the outset of the public hearing. The public hearing was continued. There was a modification. I'm not sure how you're proceeding. I know that there has been discussion between and amongst board members and others. Depending upon what it is, if anything, that you wish to adopt, you may be able to, you may not. I mean, I don't know what the magnitude of the change would be, so.
So, Tom, if you want me, I know you're holding a version of it, well, you were anyway. If you want me to make copies and distribute them.
This is the same version that's been there.
Okay.
For weeks, Andy. So this is the version, but, I mean, I do have the version, and I did look up the websites that were recommended by various members of the community. We did add certain language in there referencing the toxic substance and disease registry priority list. But I did the research on that. Originally, I said it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but when you go to that website, it says it should be noted that this list is not a list of most toxic substances, but rather a prioritization of substances based on a combination of their frequency, toxicity, and potential for human exposure. And the list has a list of chemicals that include zinc, iodine, potassium. Basically, this is a list of chemicals that would occur at a NPL site, which is like a Superfund site. It's not necessarily these chemicals occurring in this list are toxic. It's just that they occur at a site such as this. So there's some chemicals that are not toxic, and that's what it says on the website. It says this is a list that we update every 2 years. So originally I was going to include that language, but based on the fact that I did the research, and it does say that this is not a list of most toxic substances, I don't think that should be in there because there's chemicals listed there that are not toxic, such as zinc, such as iodine.
Iodine's toxic.
What?
Iodine is
Well,
a disinfectant.
Zinc's
But the-
toxic? I mean, like this list, I went
Well,
through.
it's got aluminum on it.
Yeah, well, there's certain chemicals that are definitely listed. Instead of referring to an outside list, what I've said and what Paul has said, we should have someone come in and, well, potassium, we're talking chemicals that aren't toxic. So what I'm saying is that,
If used properly.
yeah, referring to this outside list, I think we're being over-inclusive instead of under-inclusive, and we should have, again, an outside company come in, but I know we want to pass this, but including this list is not a good idea, I don't think. I think it's over-inclusive. As far as this language from Dr. Bahari, you know what? Again, I'm reading it, it doesn't seem unreasonable, but I've got to do my research again on this because, that's what I'm here to do. So I don't think we're voting on this tonight.
I would say, just on that, just as a note on process, when town board members and others, are working on proposed changes to town code, it's frequently the case that someone will make edits, come up with an idea, it'll circulate around. The reference point, for me anyway, is always the last one that we publish on the website, and it remains so. And in my mind anyway, the last one we published on the website, which I think is the one that we were either adding or not, this list of other substances to be considered, other hazardous substances, isn't one that I want to vote on tonight that I would support, because I think that I think we've learned too much, and we could do much better to both make it very clear that we want research and development and other kinds of economic activity in the LI zone, but that we absolutely have to prohibit and prevent any threat to the public health. And the one that's on the table, in my mind anyway, leaves questions that we can sort out, that aren't sorted out yet. For example, the question of scale. At one point, does the laboratory process become something much more than that as one of them? And then those definitions, moving from laboratory to manufacturing, I do believe, and I agree with you, Tom, that I would prefer that we not vote on this tonight. I know that there's some who do want to, and I appreciate that, and I know they are striving for the best interests of the town. But I think we have a little time, and we can continue to try to get this right. And just on the note of expertise, I've reached out to, I'd say, 3 different engineering companies. I had interviewed another perspective. She's a public health and industrial hazards expert today, to try to get somebody who has sort of the requisite skills and knowledge to lead a process related to the review of the town code as far as pollution control goes. And I would like to have the rest of the town board review her qualifications and consider involving her in this process. with support from a lawyer. The lawyer I spoke to, who specializes in town code review, basically said, they could do it for $195 an hour, but they would need to call upon somebody with expertise in hazardous substances. So somehow you have to build a little team, and I think it's been hard to find the right kind of mix of expertise, but I think we can. And I would like to share the information that I've obtained about that, and maybe we should consider putting this off a little bit and having it worked over by some other eyes, and including some of these comments that we've heard tonight and we've heard before. So that's where I stand on it. If somebody wants to actually move it for a vote, so be it. But I would like to be able to, and I had circulated actually a comment which I think is workable, to treat R&D a little differently, with an enhanced review for any time we are producing benzene, toluene, xylene, or anything else, to make sure that it's at a scale or with the right pollution control so it doesn't present a danger. Because there really are legitimate industrial processes that need to use hazardous substances as inputs, as products, as emissions, and we need to make sure that they're properly regulated, controlled, and monitored. And so I think we have more work to do on this.
Okay. I guess my question would be, what were we trying to do? Because originally when we set out to do this, it was to ban the large-scale manufacturing, because we were scared, or we thought that there was a possibility that Inelitech would decide to transition from a research and development facility into a large-scale manufacturer. So the community was on edge about that happening, even though it didn't seem realistic financially for them to do that. That's why we started down this path of creating a law. Now it seems to have morphed into, what if all of a sudden they decide to come back and sneak in and start building their building, which they never even took their permit out for, and now we're going to determine or redefine research and development. So now you're going down a real slippery slope where you really have to do a comprehensive exam of the entire code. So I don't know what the best thing is. Is it to put a stopgap and protect the community right now against large-scale manufacturing of BTX, while, on the other hand, we continue down the path of revising our code, which would make sense to me? Or do we throw the whole thing out, wait for that to happen? Again, it's do you want to get something done so that we can prevent the large-scale manufacturing, while at the same time going back to redefine research and development and make sure that we're doing all that properly? Or do you want to just stop it, throw the law out, and wait for it to go through the process? Because as we know, and the people who come to a lot of these meetings know, nothing moves quickly. This could be, if you're going to redo the whole code, that could be several years, because we'd have to even budget money to bring people in to help us redo the entire code. That's not something that's going to be done by a group of volunteers or ad hoc committee overnight. That's going to be something that's going to take years. So do you want to just get something passed to protect us against large-scale manufacturing, which is where the path that me and Tom started down? Or do you want to throw this out and try to change the code to protect us against research and development? My feeling is the changes that Tom makes should be presented to the public so they have a chance to read them. And then we should vote on this sooner rather than later, stopping the manufacturing while maybe not addressing the research and development thing right now. But I think it's better than nothing, that we should get something done to quell the fears of the people of Pearl River. That's just my thought.
Just a point of clarification, because it seems like the argument has morphed somehow here. We want to protect against large-scale manufacturing. The existing code does that. Manufacturing is defined, light manufacturing is defined, research and development are defined. They are different. Manufacturing is defined as the manufacturing in quantity. You have a planning board which has performance standards, which gave detailed consideration, albeit not to the satisfaction of a lot of people, but this was not, when Anelotech was given site plan approval, it was not just a rubber stamp. Now, suddenly you're looking at the question of scale as if the code is silent. It's not specific. It doesn't say 30 pounds. It speaks generally, and there is a review process which, quite frankly, hasn't failed the town, in my opinion. In the many, many years that that site has been there, and in the oversight that the planning board required, everybody seems to forget about the detail of the site plan approval process. Now, you may choose to adopt a law or to amend a law which redefines everything. All I suggest is that when you do so, let's come back to reality here. The code provides for gradations between research and development, light manufacturing, and manufacturing. When you started this, it was to add BTX to an otherwise large paragraph of substances. Granted, the discussion has changed, but I just think let's not forget what you have in place and not make the assumption that it's, you know.
Right. Well, just to be clear, my assumption, which I think is true, and I mean, John, I know that you know the law better than anybody else here. One thing we realized very early on was that the manufacturing of BTX was not prohibited in the LI zone, and that was the thing that we first targeted to fix. And that was when we were in midstream. Now, Anelotech is gone off somewhere else.
I don't think that that's accurate at all.
Right.
Manufacturing is the defined term.
Right. Right. But
and it is prohibited, right?
Oh, Benzene and Thomas Island were not on the list of prohibited uses. That's the whole. We were seeking to add them so that the manufacturing of them would be prohibited.
The large
Manufacturing. So that was one thing, and another thing is to recognize that there is still an Article 7.8 outstanding, and that's a certainly concern for me anyway, because this particular rule change, in its clarification of light and laboratory work in the LI zone as being an entitlement, does change the train a bit for that Article 78. Should Anelotech for some reason be forced to go back to the planning board, it would just make their job that much easier to reinitiate. So I don't know, it just seems to me like the timing isn't great for making this change now. And I honestly don't think, we could just adopt the prohibition, just add BTX to the things you can't manufacture in Orangetown, and call it a day. It will leave other questions unanswered, which I think, we can go on to work on. So Paul, I see what you're saying, incremental works. It can be a good thing. But we're kind of on the cusp of getting it right. I just feel like, with a little more work, we can present something that's perhaps answers a few more questions anyway. So anyway, but Thomas said he doesn't want to vote on this tonight anyway. And
Listen, I'm gonna review this.
right, I respect that.
And I'm gonna talk to experts, and I'm gonna do my research, but I wanna vote on this within the next two weeks. We're gonna vote on it, because we're 95% there. I mean, hey, this has been, around forever. And I called you and I said, well, what's your position? And you said, I'll get to it. We're gonna review it this week. That's the conversation we had. But this has been here. And like this version's been here for a while now. And you decided to review it at the end of last week. I don't get that. Doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know why you're criticizing me for that.
No, I'm just saying,
I read it very carefully and I provided a response.
No, but you've said before, you said this needs to get done. And now you're saying, we don't need to get it done. That makes no sense. We want to get it done. You're the guy that wanted to get this done, but now it's like, let's put the brakes on it. I don't get that. Well, we're trying to get it done right. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying this is basically what happened.
Listen,
Well, you know what?
Tom.
This is what I'll say. John's completely right. What we were trying to do is ban large-scale manufacturing in the town. That's
BTX.
Of BTX.
Right.
That's what everyone wanted. We can do that right now. But now we're talking about scale. This was never brought up until a couple of weeks ago. I mean, Denise Shorn did bring it up. But if we're going to do scale, I always said we need to get experts in here. Experts for expert advice on how to do it right. Because there are unintended consequences. There are unintended consequences. I mean, I considered the language that Ms. Hurley sent to me, and I was willing to put it in. And then I researched it, and I realized that it was going to have a list of chemicals that are not toxic. So we're going to be over-inclusive, which is not what we want to do. We don't want to include chemicals that are not toxic on banned manufacturing lists of chemicals in the town of Orangetown. So we do want to get it right, but the parameters keep changing. First, it was just to ban the large-scale manufacturing. Now it's kind of like we're trying to do a comprehensive overview of the code. And if you're going to do that, you need to bring in the experts. You need to bring in the experts. I still want to vote on it, but I'm not doing a comprehensive review and amendment of this code without the proper experts to guide us through it. So we can get,
Right. Tom,
ma'am,
yeah,
you're out of order, enough.
So, are you going to move this for a vote tonight, or should we put it
No,
off
I'm
for
gonna,
ourselves?
I'm gonna
Okay.
review this
Great.
language, see if this can be done. And then I will send you, as soon as possible, an amended version, which either will contain this language or not contain it, and then we'll vote on it.
All right, I also just want to have a conversation, we can do this later, of the ideas that I put forward in my last email to the board. I thought there's some ideas worth pursuing in there.
Well, I spoke to John Edwards, and he said he didn't recommend it, so I'll go with John on that.
It's not quite that simple. Emil, we're not, so this item is going to be deferred.
Well, March 15th
I'm not hearing any
is the
action on this.
next
Let's
regular
get this
town
on for
board
March
meeting.
15th. 8 o'clock.
Continued hearing March 15th.
Make it 8:10. There's also something on
All
there.
right, 8:10.
Make it Tom Divney. Do we have a second?
I'll second on that for a public hearing continuation at 8:10 on March 15th. Where were you? All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it.
And you're going to skip everything.
So lead okay. Item number 5, I believe, is, wait. Yeah. So that all of those are related to the BTX. So item number 5. This is going to be new material to some folks here. This is setting a public hearing for an amendment to the town's, bless you, hawking and peddling law. This is in response to complaints we've had about kind of door-to-door sales solicitation that's sort of verging on harassment is inappropriate. And so working with the town clerk, with the town attorney, talking with the police department, creating a more refined set of rules. So when people who want to solicit in the town of Orangetown pull a permit from the town clerk, it's a more restrictive and smarter set of rules that they have to comply with. And so we'll provide a workshop version of that law, and we'll set a public hearing. That needs to go out at least a few weeks, right, John? I guess is it 30 days? For setting a hearing on the hawking and peddling law?
We need 10 days.
Okay.
For publication. We probably publish as early as Friday, so then you can
This
All
could
right.
be March 15th if you want at 8:15.
Okay, great, yeah, so we have the, all
All right,
right,
so-
so let's push it out to the 22nd then, how's that sound? Wait, there's no meeting on the 22nd.
No, we would have to be April 12th.
No, there's April 5th.
Yeah, but that's, if you want it, that's a workshop. Do you want it on the workshop?
All right, we want to do it on a regular town board meeting night,
Would be April 12th.
be the 12th. So,
April 12th could be at 8 PM.
so I'll make a motion for this, number 5, resolved for April 12th, 8 PM, public hearing on the hawking and peddling law. Do I have a second on that? We got a couple seconds. We got Dennis Troy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. And I think that's going to be a nice little tightening up the town code. Number 6 is the mosquito control services and the payment to the Department of Public Health, the county, for providing that service in the town of Orangetown. Do I hear a motion for this? From Divany, second from Jerry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Number 7, this is the reappointment of Skip Pizzetti as chairman of the sanitation committee. Do I hear a motion for this? From Divany, second from Troy. All in favor, say aye. Thank you to Skip for his leadership on that. Number 8 is appointing 2 individuals to Health Advisory Service Committee. I'll make a motion for this. Do I hear a second? From Jerry Batari, who serves as liaison to that committee. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And it's mostly people from the ambulance corps, and we thank them for their service. Number 9, this is the agreement with Candle. And I know that Dennis Troy wants to propose an amendment to this resolution.
Yeah, they have a, there was an emergency, I guess, in the South Orangetown School District this year because of different critical situations. And they're saying they have even more hours that they have to allocate. So they're looking for another 4,000 something, I got the exact amount of money.
It changes the sum from 30,482 to $35,132.50.
The other thing I would like to add is we have Tom DePrisco from the Pearl River School Board. Now, that's a vote of 1, but it's a thing where you're saying that Pearl River is definitely interested in Candle. So what I would like... You got him right on speed dial? Okay, thank you. All right. Tell them tomorrow to send me an email, and then I'll pursue that, all right? Thanks, Tom. You're welcome. And again...
No, I think the agreement stays the
no,
same,
it
but we have to
stays-
talk with them about
stays
how
in
they
the
provide
agreement.
those
The agreement
services.
stands as is, because we have a contract with Candle. The point is, they're not living up to that contract right now, and that's something I have to address them. But in the meantime,
All right, so we made the amendment.
it
Did
maybe
someone
we'll just,
second that?
how they spread the hours.
A second from Divany.
And I'll get to that. with
So
you.
now a vote on the amended resolution. So now the only change is it now reads $35,132.50. Dennis will make a motion for that. I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
All right, that's on the
ayes
amendment.
have it.
Now you're voting on the amended.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she's got that, so we're good to go.
You did the amendment, and you also,
Fine.
We approved it as amended. All right, we have a motion, suggestion from Councilman Divany to combine the event-related resolutions, which are 10 and 11 and 12, the Penguin Plunge, which is in Nyack this weekend, and the St. Thomas Aquinas event and the Dominican College event. I'll make a motion to approve all these event supports. And I hear a second from Tom Divany. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. And there's number 13 is certificates of sewer registration to work on the sewer system, and there's 5 companies listed. Do I hear a motion for this? From Paul Valentine, and a second from Jerry Bertari. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Number 14, authorizing the Highway Department's 20th annual open house on May 14th, 2016. I'll make a motion for this. Do I hear a second from over here? Jerry Batari, all in favor, say aye. Aye. 15 and 16 are both events. One of them is the 5K race at Tappan Zee High School, Flying Dutchman, and the other is the Gran Fondo bicycle race. Do I hear a motion for these two items? Over here, Jerry, second from Troy. All in favor, say aye. Got it. Number 17, installation of a fire hydrant on Old Orangeburg Road. I'll make a motion for this. Who's got a second? Second from Divany. All in favor, say aye. Number 18, appointing Alan Seaback Jr. as greenskeeper at the golf course. Motion from Valentine, second from Divany. All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. Our last item would be a audit from our finance director. I want to note also that I want to ask the town board to meet in executive session for a few minutes, not to come back and do any more town business, but to review a matter with our park superintendent and our town attorney. And this is the audit. And we also have adjournments for tonight.
And I'd also just like to congratulate the Tappan Zee Boys High School varsity basketball team for making it to the state finals.
Wow.
Short by 1 point, but they had a great game and they made us very, very proud.
Here's to those guys. That's great work.
Coach George Gain, graduate of Pearl River High School.
Okay, tonight's audit consists of 3 warrants for a total of $1,650,000. The first warrant consists of 23 vouchers for $214,000 and was for utilities. The second warrant consists of 1 voucher for $3,000 and was for the NeoPost postage refill. The third warrant consists of 365 vouchers for $1.4 million and had the following items of interest. Number 1, Atlantic Salt, $293,000 for salt purchases. Number 2, Chase Equipment Finance, $53,000 for the Siemens Energy Performance contract. Number 5, Dell, $19,000 for police computers. Number 9, Helmke, $14,000 for snow removal at Courtwood Village. Number 12, Department of Civil Service, $628,000 for health insurance. And number 19, the State Comptroller, $25,000 for justice fines. Any questions on tonight's audit?
I have a motion from Councilman Divany, a second from myself to approve the audit. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Jeff, and the whole finance team. Excuse me. Joan McGinnis? John? Joe. Just on adjournments, which we'll do before we go into executive session. There's a list of 6, 7 people here, starting with Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, Anna Caraccia from Pearl River, Carol Fleischman from Piermont, Joan McAllen, mother of Don McAllen, Eleanor Utzik from Nyack, Teresa Mary Wilson from Pearl River, and Joe McGinnis. From New City.
Yeah, he was the AD and the basketball coach at TC High School.
Right.
Albertus as well, yes.
Thank you. So in the memory of these friends and neighbors, we adjourn this meeting. Do I have a second? We'll get him next, all right. Do I have a second on adjournment? From Jerry Batari, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. But don't forget, we are going to do a short executive session.
We'll go into executive session.
Legal counsel regarding an issue in the parks and facilities.
Who's making the second on that?
Wait.
That's all I need. I have you on.